Hey there. We are truly living in the future. Artificial intelligence using advanced neural networks has succeeded at equalizing our human experience when interacting with complex algorithms, and we don't even know it. The real value comes when you apply neural code development and deep learning as a complex enterprise solution to the cloud. The world is changing in absolutely fascinating ways, and progress in AI is pushing technology beyond the limits of yesterday. Are you excited? Good, because I just said absolutely fucking nothing. If there's one thing I'm accomplishing in this series, it is killing your buzz. But you're here to find out how computers can help you make music, and I have nothing to sell you but an honest answer to your question. So pack your bags and let's fire up them rockets and explore the exciting world of hierarchical variational autoencoders for music. Here's an idea to make you $1 million. Make a game called Deep Something, Deep Rocket Launcher, Deep Fortnite, Deep Mueller Investigation, Deep Dog Murdering, whatever. Then use the words neural network, AI, and deep learning over and over and over in the description. The game itself doesn't really matter. It could just be a Pong opponent using basic machine learning to get better, or a vent simulator, or literally anything. Slap that sucker up on Steam Early Access, and within 12 hours, every gaming site will announce that AI has reached a new landmark, and money will rain down on you for about a week until the internet turns against you. Then just buy a jet ski or something and don't hear phone for 2 or 3 weeks until everybody forgets about you. Bam. Or do what I'm doing, make videos that say, hey, this is how you can make computers make music for you, and then sell them on Udemy or Udemy, like this guy.
Hi there folks, and today we are looking at Artificial Intelligence Music Creation Secrets 2018. Now, this is going to be the most mind-blowing course you've ever experienced. jukdeck.com/makemake/tracks tracks. So it's feelings of life. Click on download and then download for free and give credit. Wave you'll not be able to get because it's for gold members.
The best part of that is that the result of this tutorial is just bringing you to a website that licenses music and just cuts it up in a way that fits your video.
It's doing it, which is breathtaking, right? This is emotional music to the core. To the core, emotional music.
So you pay for a tutorial where the summary of the entire thing is to go to a website and buy music. Or you could buy a bunch of GPUs, take a year to learn Python and some calculus, and have your computer make music like this for you.
Good day, sunshine in the backseat. God, I wish that road could never stop.
All right, wait a minute. In all seriousness, that Daddy's Car thing from Sony actually sounds pretty close to a real song performed by humans. The voice is the only thing in it that's not convincing. That's actually pretty impressive. What's that? Oh, the voice is actually a human singing. He's just French. And all the instruments are humans performing too. So, wait, the lyrics had to be computer generated because they're borderline nonsensical. What's that? Oh, no, they were written by a human too. That's amazing. In Daddy's Car, it sounds so good, like something new. It turns me on. Good day, sunshine in the backseat car. I wish that road could never stop. Down on the ground, the rainbow led me to the sun. Please, mother, drive, and then play it again. The tax man unveiled tomorrow. Never know. If you walked into a hospital, walked up to the front desk, and those words came out of your mouth, they would immediately start treating you for a fucking stroke. So what exactly is generative about that song? I looked for some white papers, some code. I even emailed Sony for the purpose of this video and got no response. And that's when the answer came to me. A lot of deep learning projects are simply a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Every company out there wants to jump on board the neural network train to seem relevant in tech, and they will seemingly throw money at anyone who will take it. And while that song does sound like it was written and performed by a band where all the members have worms in their brain, it's not an insult to the people who developed Daddy's Car, however it was done. They got instructions for a project, and they delivered the best results they could. It was a huge media bump for Sony, so mission accomplished, I guess. Apple did the same thing last year.
And with that, they developed multiple neural networks to create Face ID. And to process the machine learning in Face ID's neural networks, we built Apple's first ever neural engine. Yeah, this is a big deal. In our pockets, in our phones, is an A11 Bionic chip with a built-in neural engine.
Whoa, that's so neural. But I am not saying that deep learning is a hoax. It is not. It is very powerful. I myself trained a neural network to study the trends of all the appraised values of homes in my neighborhood and then project those values for the next decade, or predict them. This helped me isolate which neighborhoods were not being affected yet by the housing bubble in the Atlanta area. Since I bought the house, the appraised value, not including my own improvements, grew by 6%, while the appraised values of the homes a mile away or so have dropped by 2%. I realize a gap of 8% doesn't sound like much, but that'll buy a new car. The reason I'm bragging about my cool neural real estate alter ego is because it's an example of where deep learning is extremely beneficial. Where I have not found an actual benefit yet, unfortunately, is a neural network being creative. If you've been following this series from Boolean algebra all the way to here, does that actually surprise you? Why would anybody expect a computer to be creative or emotionally moving? The irony, in my case, is that the only reason I initially had any interest in deep learning or any knowledge of it now is because I wanted to see how realistic it would be to make a computer learn everything it could about my music and then make its own. And somehow, while I'm nowhere near having a virtual flashbulb, all of that research did actually pay off in helping me buy a house. The first and most prominent and maybe even obvious problem between a neural network and a musician is a gigantic wall highlighting how different writing music and data analysis software development is. You want a program that studies what you feed into it and then spits out randomized results from that input. That's not that hard to explain, it's just really hard to execute. This type of network is usually an RNN, or a recurrent neural network, and to really oversimplify it, you have an algorithm that creates a new algorithm, then reinforces it over and over again to make sure that it is correct, I guess. It also takes an incredible amount of power to do this. The machine I run these types of networks on also functions as a space heater for my studio. The process and technology in deep learning is extraordinarily powerful, and it's already changed our lives and will continue to do so. But in this application, there's one big problem. What do you feed into it? What is it that we're looking for in music that we want to duplicate? We could feed the network 10,000 beautiful melodies, but the network still has no idea what it's looking for in those melodies. And a lot of times, we don't either. Let's say that you're a musician and you actually think you know what you can isolate here. That's where the big disconnect happens for somebody who isn't a developer. These instructions and declarations are way too specific to have a GUI, and to be honest, we're really lucky that a language like Python has kind of become the language of choice for deep learning, and not a lower level language that doesn't have its own memory management. I suppose a good place to start would be Performance RNN. It's an RNN that studies velocity, timing, and dynamics of MIDI files. A great data set to start with is the MIDI files of performances from Yamaha's e-piano competition. Now, to train this network, there's going to be a very deep rabbit hole if you are not already a developer that is familiar with deep learning. And unless you're comfortable using and paying for a cloud with GPU access, if you have a CUDA compatible video card, which is NVIDIA generally, your easiest route is installing Linux, then installing TensorFlow, CUDA, GitHub, all that stuff. And Magenta, you're going to need Magenta. A lot of these have simple pip install scripts, but most likely you're going to run into a configuration problem. And more times than not, you're going to have to actually understand what the hell you're doing to get things running. This is why there is no Deep Dream app for Windows, or why the successful Prisma app is doing all their style transfers on their own servers and then sending it to your phone. None of that's happening on your phone. If you want to learn about neural networks and train one yourself, you actually have to learn some programming, and there's no way around it. That same message unfortunately limits what I can show you in this video, because I am actually not a software developer. I just am a bit familiar with it. Fortunately, there are a lot of really great videos and programs showing you how to get into deep learning that are far more qualified and far more informative than what I'm able to do here. Suraj Raval is excellent at this, and you absolutely should check out his channel. Actually, if you just want to see somebody whose hair you want to rub your hands through, you should check out his channel. How about we dip our pinky toes into the Magenta pool and check out the basic application of Performance RNN. Come to think of it, no doubt about it, I am the first person in history to say that last sentence. I have been weighing out what would be more difficult, running a Colab or Jupyter notebook version of Performance RNN in Windows, or running it like I normally have experience running it in Linux, but then having to set up a driver and streaming software or video recording software for this video in Linux. I chose the former, and so far I'm having some problems, but I think I have fixed this code, and we're going to try and set everything up again and run it without issues. So what this does, as I mentioned earlier, is it takes all of the MIDI data from Yamaha's gigantic MIDI performance contest library, and it studies the velocities and some of these performances, and that is our data set. And you don't want to use something like Jupyter or Colab. It would be kind of a pain in the butt to make a data set here, but just to run the result of said data set, we can do that hopefully just fine. And it's basically taking everything from velocity and notes, and we're not putting in any chords, and we're not telling it what to do necessarily. We're just listening to the result of everything. So I am going to generate a sequence here, and hopefully I don't get an error this time. Apparently I'm not creating enough RNN steps. All right, we're ready. Let's listen. Very cool song. Very minimal. Oh, there we go. All right. That's it. By the way, that lovely piano is the I think it's a freeware sound font. It's a Salamander piano. We're gonna try and load a different one. This one looks pretty goofy. Let's hear it. This is actually good. That was a lot better. Let's try again. Keep hitting that generate me music button here. Ooh, this one looks pretty exciting. Okay, so right off the bat, we can tell that the way that the data set is trained and then the way that Performance RNN pools that data set, it doesn't understand that choosing, for example, a C1, which is a very low C, and then a C sharp 1, and playing those at the same time, it doesn't understand that that's not going to sound good. That's not going to sound very melodic. It's always going to sound, awful. And so we would actually have to change the code to make sure that that's not happening, that there's always maybe six semitones between low notes. So just by looking at the raw output of this neural network, we're seeing that all of the performances that this has studied over and over and over again, it would still take me about 1,000 songs to go through before one actually sounded even remotely close to something that I would write myself. And I'm not that great of a composer or performer, but we're seeing that it's still struggling to pass that old Turing test. However, I want to collaborate with Performance RNN, and we could run a version of it in the TensorFlow for Chrome experiment that Google's using, and maybe actually pump some MIDI into it from chords that I'm playing on my keyboard here. So let's try that. It's going to require another computer. This is just a different wrapper of the exact same thing, and it's actually operating in Chrome, and it is sending MIDI out to Pianotech, and it can take MIDI in from my MIDI controller if I want to condition it that way. It's really chaotic and annoying, so let's just start conditioning it now. And I'll put the note density somewhere in the middle. Reset the RNN, and let's play some chords. How about a C minor 7th? To a D major. To an F major 7th, F major 9th, an octave below. A sharp major. Up to C major. So I am just running this on my music machine. This isn't the machine with all the GPUs and everything. And you can do it as well, I'm sure. The question is, do you really want to? The research and implementation that goes behind Performance RNN and most projects using Magenta or even TensorFlow for that matter are really impressive and fascinating. That being said, if I threw a dinner party and hired a piano player and he played this music, I would tell him to leave. Here's one on CodePen, and it uses Improv RNN. And so if I play a chord G minor, A minor, C major, F major, yeah, it doesn't have any velocity scaling, so it doesn't really sound all that natural. And I've been kind of looking through the code, trying to figure out exactly what it's doing and why this would be superior to just putting a randomizer on a chromatic scale. I guess my point being is I don't mean to discredit the developer in any way. I just may not understand what's happening entirely, but I don't understand why this requires a neural network or a trained model to do this. It doesn't. I can even see here. There's like tonal dictionary chord names. It's referencing things that, you know, you could make this in processing. I don't know where to put my face. I guess I'll lock it down right there. What you're looking at now is AI Duet, which Google sort of famously showed off like 2 years ago. And apparently how it works is I play the piano, and then the AI says, oh yeah, I'm going to play the piano with you, little bud, so let's do that. And then it like has a cigarette, I guess. And, oh, there it comes. Am I doing this wrong? Should I just only be playing, maybe? I'll just play basic stuff first, I guess. I was installing and building Windows screens last weekend, and I ended up screwing them all up, and none of them actually went into my Windows, and it was really frustrating. And I still think I had more fun than playing with this.
You probably expected all of the underwhelming vibes of the last two videos to lead you to this mind-blowing, futuristic AI music-generating conclusion. And honestly, throughout the research in making this video, I initially did too. When reviewing and going through all this stuff within the time space of a few months, it really stomped on a bit of my optimism and led me to a stark conclusion. Computers suck at making music. That's it. There is no technology I haven't discovered yet or program that's going to do it all the others didn't, because we're still in some way doing exactly what I did in the first video. You know what's funny? Come to think of it, out of all the cutting edge methods we've looked at, none of them produced something that, in my opinion, is any more pleasurable to listen to than this. I suppose when we say generative music, we're just talking about writing music ourselves in an unorthodox way. I like sliding up to my notes on the guitar like Pat Metheny does. My brain, I guess, made a data set of his sliding style and applied it to something new. I suppose I could have done that on a computer as well, but what's the difference at the end of the day if I'm the one deciding where the goalpost is? So fuck it. Let's leave this admitting that AI and generative are more effective as buzzwords when it comes to creative tools, and simply isolate what makes all of this desirable in the first place. New ways of making music is desirable. It's fun, it's inspiring. Just doing things differently than how we're used to doing it. Maybe that's what makes this generative music thing so attractive. How about I send this series off by showing you a few of my favorite alternative music writing tools.
So what you're looking at is Nodal, and the first time you use Nodal, it is a bit overwhelming, maybe a bit complicated, but it's actually not, and it's actually one of my favorite ways to pass the time writing music that is alternative to the ways that we usually do it. So this is a blank sheet, obviously, and let's put some nodes in. So here's one. This is where it'll start, then we'll go here, then we'll go here, then we'll go here, and I'm just dragging the mouse to do this. Then we'll go here, then we'll go back down here, let's say, and it's just for demonstration. I'm not even paying attention to how this will sound. And then a loop over there. Now, this will play on this note, and before we do anything else, I'm going to go over to the right side, and I'm going to set up this instrument to go MIDI out to Piano Tech. All right, so now we should hear a bunch of C majors. Okay, so another thing that I need to do, I have another Nodal thing back here. Another thing that I need to do is resize this so you can see what I'm doing on this right side. Okay, so let's select this first note. We have a C3, the velocity is 96, and it is playing 100% of the note. Since I have the decay thing, the decay pedal down, sustain pedal down on Piano Tech, I'm just going to change all these to 10. Now, a good question is, can I do it to all of them at once? And usually the answer is no, depending on if they already have different values. But in this case, they don't. So we are good to go. So
we really shouldn't hear any difference with that, so there's no point in playing it. So now I'm going to go, let's go to B3 here. Let's go to D4. Let's hear it. All right, so what do we do now? Well, let's branch off from this node and let's go like, I don't know, how many should we go? Let's go 6, let's go 8 away. And 8 notes away, or 8 bars away here, as we can see there, we are going to create a note, and we will create another note 2 away from that, another 2 away from that, another 2 away from that. And that should not bring us quite back here because we don't want things overlapping. So I'll explain why in a second. This probably still seems really alien. This note, it can go sequential, parallel, or random. Sequential means that every now and then, or sequential means that once it'll go right, once it'll go left. And it'll keep going back and forth like that. Parallel means it'll go both at the same time. That's the one we want in this one because we want this note to play a backing bass melody, or that's sort of, it's going to accompany it. Or we could go random, which we don't want to do now, but that's also very fun to do. So let's have this note be an A1 at a 76 velocity. Let's have this note be, let's say F1 at a 56 velocity. Let's have this one be a D2 at a 76 velocity, and this final one we will just have it be a C1 at a 80 velocity. Okay, let's play it and let's hear how this works. Actually, I want to change the velocity of these main notes down a little bit if they're all the same. No, they're not, so we can't do that anymore. That's okay. Let's listen. Well, we could still do it, but we'd have to do it individually. Okay, so again, I'm going to complain about the velocity, and I'd kind of rather the new melody to have a louder velocity than this looping stuff going on over it. So I'm just going to individually change these into different things. Okay, let's hear it now. I don't want these notes to be doing this as often. I want it triggered less often. So if that is what I want, then I will just move it further. That way it has to travel further to... Okay, so you get the idea of what's going on with that. But if I wanted to, I could also make this play a C5 at, I don't know, 100, and then the next time play a D5 at 100. And what that'll do is on the second pass, it'll play that in the third pass, and then it'll loop back around. So even inside the node, we could edit the code to play different things each time. So let's try that, and just to hear the result. It's not going to sound pretty or anything. So you get to hear how fast and easy it is to actually make something that's very dynamic, and you're not generating anything. Everything here is planned and deterministic, but you know, that's the nature of how this works. And so for another good example, here's one that people who listen to my music may recognize, this is sort of how the idea of this flashbulb track started. It was in Nodal. And this is the track Wind for anybody who wants to look it up on Spotify. If you search the flashbulb Wind, you'll find it. And these are backing chords, but you can have a node play a chord, but here it's a little bit more dynamic and the chords get a little bit more complex as they go on. And some of these have a lot of values in them. Some of them only have a few. Yeah, and another thing that you can do is, if you notice on the left here, I realize that this is a little bit out of view, but if you notice on the left here, instead of, like in some of these, I have G2, G2, B2, B3. On some of these, I just have -2, +7, things like that. And that just goes up from the last one. And so if I were to play a C and then have it go, well, here, I'll just do it. And now it'll just forever go up until MIDI stops recognizing that high. So yeah, you can generate things that way too. I guess you can sort of have the programs. You could keep rising things by 4 or 3, and then have it go down. That could be the way that you program your song, rather than choosing the notes. As you can see with some other projects here, I've gone completely out of control with Nodal and made some really goofy compositions. This is Sonic Pi. It is freeware. It is available for Windows, Linux, and Mac, and Raspberry Pi, which I assume it was initially developed due to the name. Version 3.0, 3.1 is what I'm on now. 3.1, or as of version 3.0, it has MIDI functionality. I've had a little bit of issues trying to get MIDI to work in Windows. However, that being said, I've only spent about 10 seconds troubleshooting it and then, got distracted by something else and never really went back. So I'm sure it works fine. I'm just lazy. And you can tell that MIDI's working now a little bit because my FA06 seems to be just beating the hell out of that clock input. All right, so how do we do this? All right, well, first we have to move my keyboard over. First we have to, let's define some notes. So these are notes. Notes equal ring, that means play. And we will play, how about G3, I'm sorry, C3. We can play D sharp 4. We can play, sorry, I'm like trying to think of a chord in my head here. How about G3? Forgot to put the little semi there. Then maybe an A sharp 4. I keep forgetting. And then a, how about a D5? And then a C3 again. Do the C3 again. This is the most boring video I've ever made, eh? How about a G5? And I want to do one more because I want to make this a little bit more dynamic. A C2. Let's go, whoa. and let's go back to A sharp 3. And if I forget a semicolon again, I'm just going to jump out my bedroom window here, my studio window. All right, so we've defined our notes. Those are the notes we're going to play. Now, we're going to create a live loop, and I'm going to call this one yawn. I don't know. Let's call it a... how about a... I don't know. Slow. I think that's a very boring name. Play, that live loop is going to play notes. Tick, that's clock. And then the release is 0.25. And then, ooh, you know what? I need to put I'm bad with my colons today. And then the sleep will be, that's the time in between notes. So let's say 0.5 and end. Okay, let's hear it. 0.5 means like 500 milliseconds, I believe. Sounds about right. Okay, so there's our sequence. Genius, right? Okay, so let's make another one. And this one will be quick. Jesus. Let's give this one a slower release, and the sleep will be it'll be faster. So this one will be 0.49, and that, and then we'll do one more live loop to create a trio, and that one will be called Blazin'. And the release can just be, I don't know, 0.5. And well, if it's blazing, we probably want the release to be even lower, right? Sleep 0.48. So not exactly blazing, just a bit faster than the last one, but we're just defining our things that way. All right, let's hear it, or see what I did wrong. All right, here we go. Yeah, and so if we add more notes in here and make this sequence a little bit more dynamic, we can actually get a pretty cool sounding thing here, I assume. I don't know, what would stand out big time? I'll just do another A sharp. Let's go down. Okay. And let's make this quicker so we don't have to listen to it as long. 2.9 and 2.8. All right. So yeah, it's kind of it's generating these 3 different loops and making its own little sequence that way. However, if we were to go with, let's say that I wanted one of these to ring out, let's have it ring out the entire step, and the sleep could be 1, and then this one, the sleep would be 2/5, so that'd be a quarter note, and this one, the sleep would be 0.5, half note, and so let's hear that. So now we've sort of, everything is going to be in sequence a bit. This one could be a triplet if we want. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Let's hear it. And you could do this with drums. I could load different sounds. I could load different sequences if I wanted to. Yeah, I could also, say instead of notes, counter will just ring C. I don't know. Is there something that fits that I haven't played yet in this little sequence? Probably just A, huh? Okay, so let's just say counter will be A4, and that's all it's doing. And we can make another live loop. And this is, we'll call this one stupid. And this will play counter tick. Alright, let's see if I did anything wrong here. Okay, so this will just play that note over and over again, or whatever I add. If I want to add 2 notes to it, if I want to make it more defined, I guess. We could also do velocity too, but I'm just not getting that deep into it today. Let's just have this always be an A, and it will get really high and annoying, but that way we'll actually hear what's happening with that one. And, what else should I change something else? Get this on 66 here. 666666666. The code of the devil. All right. And there you have it. This is a really fun way to make melodies. It's not generative. You can do random notes in Sonic Pi, but this isn't generative at all. But it is sort of the same process of what you would go about in creating something generative, except you actually know what you're doing and you're creating something deterministic, but it's just a bit more experimental and unusual, and so you're just coding music instead. And you could get results that you would never ever get inside a DAW by doing things this way, and that's a lot of fun. And that's my point. Man, if you sat through the mundane hours of this 3-part series and wound up here, this might be the reward for you. This is the only software in the world that it runs on Android, iPhone, iPad, Apple, and Windows. They have different versions for, I own them all. This is the only software in the world that I can press play and have it play in the background all day and enjoy it. And it's called Wotja X 2018, or Wotja. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. And there's a long history of this company, which I believe is just 2 developers making generative software that's not, it's kind of generative. Like, you can set all of the rules on the side here for every single thing that's going on. The Windows version is kind of crashy. It doesn't run amazingly or anything like that. It's definitely developed for the iOS environment, it seems, and then ported to everything else. But it creates dynamic music on its own, and they just seemed to have figured out how to blend the 2 worlds of like pre-recorded phrases and generating new ones automatically, and they've blended it beautifully in this really, really weird, hard to use software that I, after years, feel like I'm not even qualified to give a tutorial on, because there's even a whole lyric section where it just shows you words, and the different words describe different things happening in the song, and it's really, really weird. And that's the best thing about it, is it's so weird. When I first bought Wotja X 2018 for Android and Windows, my purpose was to continue controlling my synths with random music from it. And I couldn't find any MIDI out or in devices in the software. Even though it had the options, I couldn't find any of the devices. It just wasn't communicating with MIDI. And I emailed support being like, hey, did you drop support for Windows and Android? I understand if you did, it's complicated. It seems like this is made for iOS, but maybe update the description because it could be misleading. Because, I was under the impression that it would continue to have MIDI support. And then, walked away. Like 2 days later, You know, I checked my Facebook messages again, and this developer's like, yo, did you figure this out? Here's things to try. Did you do it yet? Is it okay? I mean, this guy like badgered me to help me figure out what's going on. He talked to his partner and tried to just went through all the steps. And I actually, went through MIDI yoke and some other things and showed them like, no, this is absolutely not working on either environment. And before the next day, within 24 hours, I got a response back that they had updated the software. They'd completely rewritten the entire MIDI part to make it work because they had made some mistake. And I was the only person who had bought it at that point, apparently, that uses MIDI. And they told me that the sales are so low for these platforms that it takes a really long time to notice that they made a minor mistake, which turned into like a major flaw in the software. My point in telling you this mundane software support story is that these two developers are extraordinarily dedicated and hardworking and awesome at what they do and very passionate about it. Again, this is the only software that you can just press play and have it go and sound good all day. And it has its own internal synthesizer sounds, and you can also use MIDI out. Every single platform that the software is available on, there is a demo also available. And the demo, I believe the only limit is in the time that you can play whatever it's generating. You have all the other tools, but I think you can only have a minute of music playing at once. And there's no reason why you shouldn't check that out. Hell, even if you're not a musician, you should probably be playing with this software because it's just that cool and weird and unique. And I'm not endorsed by them in any way. The last I talked to them was at Support Experience. I just really, really dig the software.
I do hope that this series was informative and helpful for anybody peeking into the rabbit hole of AI music creation. I myself was expecting a bit more awe in the results, but I'm happy that I can lay any ideas of making a 100% AI-generated album to rest for now at least. And maybe some of my viewers will be happy to pick up a chord and scale dictionary instead of searching for expensive technological solutions that don't really exist. Hey, this is the 1-year anniversary of this channel. I've made 32 videos and gained a bit over 8,000 followers, and that is pretty awesome. What's not awesome is that I didn't find a solution to make it financially sustainable. I've looked into some various options and none of them thus far come close to making the time and money I spend on these videos a good idea per se. And that's okay. I would have never known if running a music education channel would be a sustainable project if I didn't try, right? I set up a Patreon and tiers and I made a little Patreon launch video, and then at the last minute I decided against it. Like $100 per video would still be a drop in the bucket in terms of breaking even, and I would feel guilty. I may change my mind about this, but for now, I feel like if I'm on the fence about something that costs other people money, I should probably wait till I'm 100% positive that it's a good idea. This is not the end of this channel. This is just the end of me having a production schedule and budget for this channel. This is probably the end of me writing scripts and taking 20 takes for each 3 sentences I say. This might mean less frequent videos, or more abstract videos, or more personal videos, or less professional videos. We'll see. Perhaps my subscriber count will continue to grow and I'll find an affiliate deal that works nicely. Perhaps a company like Masterclass or ADSR or something will hire me to make videos for their network. That'd be cool. I still have a lot of really big ideas for this channel, and hopefully some of them will be able to be executed someday. My point is, I'm genuinely very thankful for all of my viewers and subscribers who have given me kind words and supported this channel over the last year. And I'm also very thankful for all of the companies who have trusted me to showcase their product accurately. Being able to take the information and knowledge that's been sucked up in this box for the last 38 years and use my career as a platform to help other people or help other musicians in any way means a lot to me. And if you learned anything from this series, subscribe to this, or I guess I don't even have to say that anymore.